you don't see the tractors as a big part of your economic sustainability in the future? Trying to
They're
phase
so
that out.
expensive to get. Then they're expensive to maintain. Then there's the question of who owns them and what's their incentives to maintain them, and so on. I just, you drive everywhere and you see broken down tractors in all across Africa, and then you'll see. But I've been there long enough to see brand new tractors and to see those same tractors broken down a couple years later, and then for them to stay broken down, and then for them to start.
What are all these other initiatives like Bill Gates or whatever in South Africa or wherever just doing big commercial scale agriculture? That's
You know, that's
is that
you know, I'm
coming
not
in
an
a
expert,
lot?
but I would say to me it looks like a big replay of the 1970s. And
Sure.
I
The Green Revolution again.
no, it looks like a big replay of the 1970s in Africa.
And 70s.
So not
were marked
the
by-
1970s in America. The Green Revolution was a huge success in North America and Europe and Japan and Australia and places like that. Green Revolution was not a big success in Africa. So it did not work for a lot of the reasons around the tractor. So you had problems, the tractor breaks down, who's going to fix it, where do you get the parts from? I think a lot of people really don't understand agriculture and how agriculture works. If you have a tractor that breaks down and it takes 3 weeks to fix and your planting season was 3 weeks ago, you might as well not have that tractor, by the time it's fixed.
Yeah,
You're just not going to use it. And it takes a community not very long to figure that out. Because when the tractor first comes in, tills up all kinds of stuff, eyes get glittery, people are excited, they see the big future. And then you plow that land up, and tractor breaks. Oh, shoot, we got to get fixed. Oh, who knows how to do that? Nobody. Oh, this guy thinks he knows. Okay, good. What's his diagnosis? We need this part. Oh, we don't have that part. Where can we get the part? Oh, we can order it from such and such a place overseas. Okay, well, let's get that. Or from such and such a country. And then there's a delay. I mean, we have delays. We're in the Ruzizi Valley. Bukavu is not that far from us. You can get there and back in a day. We need a part for a generator. We need something that's in Bukavu, and we have a hard time getting it. And we have a lot of money in transport, and it'll be 3 days. We thought we needed it today, and it'll be 3 days before we get a bar of iron that we needed of a certain spec. That can't happen with an agricultural system, and that really can't happen with a poor African farmer. They can't do that. That's the end of their harvest right there, and it takes them about a second to realize after they get hit the first time that I'm going back to something that works, which is the hand hoe and the machete.
And jumping to the other continent in America, so you say that the first plowing of the prairies on a major scale, like as far as the major acreage that's around
Oxen.
today.
That was done with oxen.
So like, would you say just about all the arable land in the United States right now, or?
As far as I know, all of it. I don't think. I mean, maybe you could find some place in Alaska or something, but I'd even be surprised if there were horses in Alaska before oxen. Oxen always came first.
So basically, when a big steam tractor came in that was replowing, what was it, already plowed, or?
As far as I know, the big steam tractors got their big boost during World War I, because all the draft animals, the horses and the mules, were all sent over to World War to serve in World War I, and that's when the big subsidies behind agriculture started, and the mechanization started in agriculture. Before that, there was mechanization, but not to the scale. It was not to scale, like what happened during World War I.
It wasn't like in the. It wasn't in the late 1800s.
They were invented in the late 1800s. They started using them in the late 1800s. But you have to understand the difference between
starting to use
and really scaling up. I mean, we started getting the automobile in what is it, 1890 something or other. Is when the automobile, or 1880 something. First automobile started. Everybody in America didn't get a car, until the 1950s. So there's a big difference between scaling up and what's a small program. And there were even, I mean, we look at it as even that World War I thing. There were tons of farmers in Maine that were still using horses and even oxen up until after World War I. And the biggest shift to mechanization of agriculture happened in the Green Revolution. And not even after World War I. After World War II, they were
That's
still
50s,
using.
the Green Revolution.
Yeah, well, 50s and 60s was when it started to really, really take over. And so,
From draft power?
no, I mean just
From-
just the final nail in the coffin of
Okay.
the industrial agriculture.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So right now for scaling, the main thing is draft power, training people.
To get that really solid, to get a really solid draft animal power thing. But really, before I go to scale, my interest is showing people the success of the 10-acre farmer. So when we get successful 10-acre farmers up and running to a big scale, and we can show how we did that and how that worked, then it's worth sharing with people.
What's your basic model for that?
So we have three, that's what I'm saying, is that it depends on the circumstance. So our first one was we get a bunch of untrained farmers, we have a piece of empty land, we teach them how to farm on that empty land, and then we use the profits from that empty land to set them up on their own 10-acre farms. That's model number one. That's not really replicable so many places because you don't have a lot of empty land. Model number two is we take farmers that are 1-acre farmers, small farmers. We get them plugged into our network. We teach them how to train. How to work oxen. We teach them how to. We get their land plowed beforehand because they have to understand the oxen, why it's worth learning. But eventually, we teach them how to work with oxen. We provide them with agricultural training as well, and then we either we buy land and sell it to them, or we loan them money to buy land so that they can get a big enough piece of land, and then they become 10-acre farmers that way, and through their oxen as well. And finally, the last model, which we don't have a model for yet, but I think would conceptually work as there's a big landowner or several landowners, could be several medium-sized landowners that don't farm the land, they're absentee landlords, or they're too old to farm the land or whatever it is, and a young guy or young gal will learn how to work oxen from us, and then we'll rent the land from these landlords, farm it, and then either through us or through somebody else, we'll have a distribution network that they can plug into, and then they'll give, whatever they rented the land for to the landowner, and they'll get to keep the rest. And I think that one might be really scalable in places like Latin America, where that dynamic does already exist.
Is there a big dynamic of people fleeing to the cities in Congo?
Yeah.
And is this going to address that, do you think? Or
I think that we're very excited about the fact that people are going to the cities because of all these great things that can happen. They can get services and so on. But really, the flip side of that is that there's a great danger there's going to be a lot of unemployed people in the cities. And I think, in fact, it's not even a danger; it's a reality. So,
yeah,
my personal belief is that if we're going to employ 10 million people, there's going to have to be a lot more people farming. And I think that's not only good from that perspective, I think it's potentially good ideologically. It was it Benjamin Franklin or Thomas Jefferson or one of those? I think it was Thomas Jefferson who postulated that a true democracy ought to have a bunch of independent farmers. And I think to have 20%, 15% of your population as independent small farmers is what an amazing democracy that would be. These people are free. They're not beholden to anybody. They're their own bosses, and nobody's going to push them around or make them vote one way or another, or
Is that accepted by anybody, or these days, or that's a fringe concept?
I'm sure that there are people who accept that. Yeah, maybe people who read the Small Farmers Journal might accept it, but I don't think that people give it a lot of thought, because I think we have more people. I think the statistic is we have more people in the United States in prison than we do on farms, and that means that the majority of us don't actually give it a lot of thought as to what happens day to day with the farm community. We just go in the store and buy food, but it has to be grown somewhere. What's the process that makes that, and what's the social system that produces? So we've been based on food as a species for a long time, and so it's good to think about that.
You mind if I publish this?
Publish it where?
On our blog. No, not just on the YouTube channel, actually.